We are back where it all started. The Bill and Jared Show, whatever you want to call us, the Value Added Podcast. We're back on the front porch of Bill's home here in the great state of New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire to be exact, kind of the northeast. Very picturesque, looking out on this June day with all the green leaves. This is where it all started for Bill and I. How many years ago is this now, Bill? We're talking?
Well, pre-pandemic, so
pre-pandemic.
we're talking 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yep.
I was hired on at the church. Most of you might know the story. I won't go all the way back in my history, but the church I grew up in that my dad was serving as an associate, I came back to 20 years later and actually was hired on to that same role as associate pastor.
Yep.
And Bill was on the search committee and serving as an elder.
Yep.
So that's how we met.
Yeah, it was the search team, and I think the first time we met is when you and I interviewed.
I think so, yeah.
The first interview we did for you to bring you on.
Yeah.
So, and I think you came on.
I passed Bill's credentials.
You passed God's standards of an elder
is
what happened.
Oh, I got you.
But you first, we were sharing you with your dad's church.
Yes. Yep.
Because they had a reduction of income giving to the church, and they couldn't afford the salary but you graciously voluntarily stepped down.
Yeah, eventually
I but
served to both churches.
But someone came to the idea of, hey, let's share Jared.
Yeah.
And I know you've mentioned before in the podcast, there's kind of somewhat of a doubt if that would actually work or not.
Yeah, for me, I was like, it ain't gonna work. Who's gonna pay me to? Both churches gonna kind of work together.
After the part-time back and forth sharing you between the two churches, there was a further reduction in giving. You voluntarily stepped down, and it just so happened our church was looking for someone for that full time, and we just brought you on full.
Yeah.
So, and ever since that first interview, we've been kind of in touch, meeting regularly.
Yeah, you were assigned to me as my elder
to oversee
my to kind of oversee my transition into eldership at Jaffrey, because I was serving as an elder at Good News, and then as an elder at Jaffrey, I had to go through obviously your whatever you want to call that process. I guess it was. We had a book, Biblical Eldership.
We did I walked you through the eldership class that we normally do using that book. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So kind of that was kind of a cool, and that's how this all started, because we met kind of on Zoom a number of times.
We did.
Found out we were neighbors. Because you can actually see.
I could take a bow and hit his house.
I mean, it's literally probably 150 yards like through the woods. We didn't really know him. In the next subdivision over, he's in this one, but our land kind of goes right along the stone wall behind his house. So it's kind of interesting how that all played out. But yeah, so we ended up going through that book together. That's how I got to know you. You got to know me a little more intimately. We studied eldership, biblical eldership together. And then from there, it kind of turned into the continuation of just you and I meeting once a week. Just to touch base on how things are going, how my transition is going. And that kind of
just blossomed into accountability
and a friendship. And then from there,
absolutely
accountability. So much so we became such close friends. We ended up taking a trip together. 4 of us went to Scotland together to celebrate anniversaries.
We had a lot of common in regards to leadership, and we talked a lot about leadership and how it should be done in different circumstances, both for me in the workplace and for you at church. And we even read a couple books together on leadership.
We did, yeah.
So, and it just continued. And every so often after we'd be sitting here on the porch having a conversation, Jared would get up and start walking away and go, man, that should have been a podcast right there. So, and that was kind of the birth of the idea of us doing a podcast. And we initially started focusing on leadership.
We did, yeah. A lot of our study was on leadership, and we just had a major connection there to see some change, not only in our church, but also in church ministry here in New England in general. To kind of see some change or see some training for young leaders, and there was a number of things that we connected on.
You were training leaders. That's one of my main responsibilities at the time at work, was training and bringing up new leaders. So there's a lot of common ground that we talked through.
For sure. So if you're just listening to this podcast, do yourself a favor, or you don't have to, but if you want to see our ugly mugs and kind of a little bit of the porch that this all started on, definitely check out the YouTube video of this episode. And this is just going to be an open conversation between Bill and I. No idea how long it's going to go. We have no agenda.
Yep.
We just wanted to bring it home and say, hey, man, this is where it all started, right? On this front porch through this friendship. And now we've been doing, what are we on? Like, how many episodes now have we done?
We're on 81 or 82, 81, I think this will be. Yeah.
Kind of approaching that 100 episode mark here.
And if, as Jared said, if you're listening on a different platform, this is one you maybe want to check out the YouTube video just a little bit to see what it looks like and how things looked when we got started. But this is pretty much it.
Yeah, this brings back a lot of memories too, just sitting here. In fact, your porch has just been redone.
Just rebuilt. Yeah, I hired one of our fellow elders at Jeffrey Bible who does construction to rebuild it for us.
Shout out to good old Paul and his son David.
This episode we're recording is actually the first use of the porch since it's completed.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me this. I did think of a couple questions to kind of
talk through.
Yeah, to kind of work through. What's your favorite memory since we started? Kind of what do you think of when you think, oh, Bill and Jared back in the day, only 6-7 years ago?
I mean, for starting out or just overall?
Just overall, over this whole process overall. I mean, for me, it's Scotland. I'm not gonna lie. Scotland. The trip to Scotland was for me like boom.
I think I would have to. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'm trying to look a little more profound of an answer.
No, man, you don't have to be profound.
I think it's just reflective of the relationship established, and our wives had met a few times in between, and there's the question of how long or how well they'd get together, the four of us, on a long trip.
Well, that was one of the reasons I bring up the Scotland trip for me being such a cool memory, is because you told me, my wife, she wouldn't do this with just anybody.
She wouldn't.
Right. So that's when I realized, man, I've not only had this relationship with you, I have this close relationship, with your wife too. And that was really cool. That was really special for me to kind of understand that and learn about that on the trip.
So just a little bit how that trip came about. It was coming up to our 30th anniversary, my wife Julie and I.
And our 20th.
And your 20th.
That was 2 years ago now.
Yeah, and my dad did a wonderful gift to my sister for their major milestone anniversary and sent them overseas. And I mentioned the idea of, hey, I was going to pay for it and just do it myself anyway. Budgeted it, saved all the side for it. And then my dad said, well, no, I'm going to pay for it. It's your anniversary gift of 30 years of marriage. And I said, oh, Dad, thank you. What a blessing.
Cool. Yeah.
And I said, what a great blessing to have someone come along where we can share the memories and also sharing an anniversary. So
for sure,
between the two of us, we were on a trip that celebrated 50 years of marriage.
Yeah.
So, which was
super cool.
Hindsight is just really awesome and a blessing.
And that was the culmination too, I think, of just the friendship that had blossomed between you and I.
Yeah, and just for the record, we got along famously throughout the whole trip. Sure. There was no issues. It was just smooth, and the food was.
Oh my gosh!
The World Cup was recently here in the United States, and
going on right now.
Still going on. You see all these people from Europe talking how amazing American food is and all the new things. I mean, like back at you. I mean.
Yeah.
There was just not a bad meal when we were over there.
In Scotland too, the people were so friendly. We had private tours because we're bougie like that. So we had like our own private tours, just the four of us
for the anniversary.
Just the four of us with our driver, and man, they were so cool.
Gracious, funny, encouraging.
Yeah.
Just
went the extra mile to kind of make sure you had a good time, and even our tour guides around Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Which is Edinburgh, not Edinburgh or Edinburgh. Edinburgh is what I was told.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you Scots, but anyway, that was cool.
So outside of the Scotland trip in forms of memories, I think just sitting here and having our conversations, and just speaking into each other's lives in different circumstances are just one long string of memories that I find just so valuable.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, I remember sitting here and I would have questions about leadership, and I would ask them almost weekly. You're just like,
first season,
like, what do you think about this? And then you would obviously turn that around at me and ask me a lot of questions too. I know it was a two-way street, but I just remember Bill's kind of this resource of simply because you spent how many years now in the help desk industry? You're kind of in management now.
26 years in the help desk industry, but specifically at that time, I was involved in training leaders, and raising them up. And I wanted to, let me make sure I have all the tools in the toolbox I can.
Yeah.
So I was reading a lot of books on I was like one a month on leadership for 6 or 7 years
And I joined
straight.
that journey with you and
You
did about
did
one a month
towards,
for quite a while.
yeah, and I dialed it back to one every month, and now I read 2 or 3 a year
Mm-hmm.
because they all, after a while, they all
They
start
all
to say
sound the
the
same,
same.
yeah.
So, but what was key for me in those books and our conversations was we took the biblical principles from those books
Mm-hmm.
and really then, oh man, this is just great wisdom.
Right.
And it gave context of how to apply it in ministry, but
Mm-hmm.
also in the workforce as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of John Maxwell books
A
we
lot of
read.
John, yeah.
Who's the other?
Patrick Lencioni,
Patrick
yeah.
Lencioni. The other guy who we listened to has a podcast.
Uh,
Pastor. Oh, what's his name? I'm spacing on it now.
Newhoff,
Yeah, Kerry Newhoff. We
yep,
read some of his.
yep.
So just a wealth of information out there for leadership. But I do remember that. Just
So I
our
was
talks.
regurgitating a lot of what I learned
Yeah,
and started
yeah.
applying myself. So by no means am I a leadership expert,
Mm-hmm.
but it was more like putting the train tracks down in front of the train
Yeah,
as it was
no, for sure. Yeah,
moving forward, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What about you? Do you have any questions today just for this? I got
So
a couple more, but I don't want to take up all the question time.
no, I struggled actually to think of some questions. I guess
Yeah.
looking back, is there one key moment was like a turning point for you ministry wise?
Yeah, since being here, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think,
since we've known each other.
yeah, there was a couple of moments I remember here on the porch where, because you leaders out there, you'll be familiar with this. You come into a position and you're kind of told, hey, kind of ride out the wave a little bit, do a lot of recon, build a lot of relationships before you go start changing things around. And I remember you and I having this similar heart, similar vision, similar mindset for things that needed to change, specifically at the church we serve at.
Yeah.
And I remember our connection on that. And then it was a moment of, man, I'm not the only one who sees this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And for me, that was a pivotal moment, and I think that you kind of saw the same thing. Man, now I have
Very
like a
much.
comrade
Yeah.
on the elder board, in a voice for some of these small things that this kind of the big change that comes through micro change.
Yes.
And you and I connected on that, and I remember you saying, not word for word, but because I had the group that I'm working with, my staff, my volunteer staff, they want to change like right now. And what we were reading and studying was kind of don't just go change and stuff, but through the experience that I had at the church and your wisdom and our putting our minds together, we did make some pretty significant changes to at least that one program,
We did.
um,
Yeah.
and
And we
and it
actually
worked.
influenced the rest of, I think, the other elders to where
Yes.
we went through one or two leadership books as
Hmm.
elders.
Yes, we did. Yeah,
So, and I think there was a lot of growth as a result, at least a
for
little
sure.
um, broadening of perspectives on
Yeah,
leadership within the church,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
I think that's a good call out. It was almost like spillover, from what Jared and Bill were doing in their personal
yeah,
lives, and then in their roles as elders here at the church, we were able to share some of that and kind of spark some of that
right.
mindset of, man, what else needs to be addressed and changed. And if you know anything about ministry in the Northeast, that change up here, it's
It's
it comes with some
slow.
serious effort. It's
Yeah,
slow. Yeah.
yeah.
We have a joke at our church. It's like the glacial pace of
Frozen chosen.
the frozen chosen, yeah, being up in the Northeast, but the glacial pace of like our church.
Yeah,
That's kind of a phrase that we'll use, but
yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's different, and we've talked about this before. Motivating people in ministry and volunteerism, and
right.
I've talked to people who are not in the church dealing with volunteer organizations, experience the same thing. There's very little weight or anything that you can hold over them to move them
Hmm.
forward,
Yeah.
versus in the workplace it's like, this is, I want to keep my job, I got to go do this, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Hmm.
So it's a different, unique skill set to develop
Right.
to motivate and grow people in a volunteer situation.
Oh, there's definitely some.
Yeah. But that's where a lot of our solid principles have come from. One we've gotten from Foad,
Mhm.
who's that old African
Proverb.
proverb:
Yeah.
if you want to go fast, go alone. If you
Yeah.
want to go far, go together.
Right.
And that took some time to sink into the attitude of my heart.
Yeah.
And then we kind of rephrased a bit of what Maxwell would say. Maxwell would say great leaders have to have both care and candor.
Yeah.
you can't have one or the other. And we kind of refine that. Hey, connect before you correct.
Yeah.
Gain permission to speak in someone's life by building this connection with them.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be more receptive to the truth you have to bring to the table. So it's things like that we really process.
We're going back, good 6 years or so. These are the conversations we were having that we wanted to turn into podcasts.
We did, yeah.
And I remember we even came around the idea too, like for our church being such a glacial pace of change, and wanting to go together, so we go slow instead of going fast and going alone. But I remember we also kind of coined a phrase that was, I think I'm getting it right. It was, don't sacrifice, growth on the altar of comfort.
Yeah.
Right. So there's got to be some give and take. And I know for a lot of us up here, we do sacrifice, growth. And it's not just numerical. I want to grow my church numerically, but it's growth as in grow where you're planted as a person, as a leader, as a husband, as a father, or whatever. It's growth as an elder board. It's growth as a church, spiritually and numerically. But don't sacrifice that growth for the sake of comfort.
And that's the element of that is being intentional. We can get into this coast mode of sit back and relax and wait for God to work on and make the change.
Yeah.
But the command is to work out your salvation. Don't sit back and let it just happen, right? There needs to be an intentional aspect on our part.
Yeah, I think too, another memory for me kind of that came from this front porch during our times together is I forget which book it was, probably a Maxwell book, you might remember, but we ended up coming up with like leadership growth plans for ourselves.
We did.
And kind of held each other accountable for a number of seasons on that. Hey, what are you doing to grow personally? And that was kind of a cool spurt of growth I think for both of us.
Yeah, and then Maxwell's book has from 2 or 3 years ago on communication, how to be what I don't know, 10 laws or irrefutable laws of communication or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm getting his titles mixed up.
It's 21. I thought it was 21 or something like that.
Might be. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the description. Yeah. But we read that book together and said, all right, what are the immediate steps you need to take? And we shared with each other, and again, how he held each other accountable to it, so we can become better communicators. I remember mine being, being a proud card-carrying member of Introverts Are Us. Yeah. My big takeaway was, walk slowly through the crowds, because your teaching starts before you get up in the pulpit, is what Maxwell writes about. Yeah. I'm like, man, I just want to go in, teach, and get out. And like, if I want to minister to people, I can't do that anymore. I got to really connect with them.
Yeah, the thing that I took away from some of that too, and this is kind of a play on words, but it helped me understand, we're not really teaching the Bible to people. We're teaching people the Bible.
That's
and
right.
That for me made a lot of sense. Like, I got to know kind of who I'm teaching. How do they learn and receive information? There is an element of that when you're working with the same group of people like you do at a church.
Right.
And for a long time, I think, teachers and communicators are like, I'm teaching the Bible to these people. It's like, well, yeah, you are, but you're teaching them though. So if you know and understand them, you'll be able to teach them the Bible, as opposed to just looking at it. I'm just going to teach these scriptures to the people. No, it's yes and no. So that's kind of a lesson I kind of learned, even with my students.
Yeah, and even that's a reframing or a ministry-specific example of care and candor.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, care and candor. We walked a lot through that. We had some seasons of pretty hard things, since I've come to the church. You guys were already dealing with some, and I came along and helped with some of that. And then we had our own that came about.
Yep.
Just hard situations and things. But the front porch for me, again, was a place of solace. Like you and I actually, with safety and with solace, and you and I were able to just be raw and honest with each other without having any. I remember you told me that one time. You're like, just say it like you need to say it, Jared.
Yep.
Like no one's listening. It's just you and I.
Yep.
And I would just, and I even told you once, I feel like I come to your front porch, you just vent, and you were like, no, it's good. You need to. And sometimes I do too. So
that's part of working out. Taking every thought captive is sharing it with somebody, right? Yeah. And then hearing your voice.
Yeah.
And that came from coaching phone advisors. They don't really understand how they come across to customers on the phones until I play their call back to them and they hear it from the customer's perspective.
Yeah.
And it's like, I sounded like that. And that's just an extension of that, is that, hey, maybe my thoughts, my echo chamber in my head needs something to bounce off of for me to have a better understanding of it.
Exactly. So I think what's cool too about the front porch thing is we still have our front porch times, meaning
we do.
Every once in a while, I'll be like, dude, man, we need to just connect, you and me, and we'll go to the local pub that we like up here, the tap room, and they call it. Or we'll just, hey, let's just get together and sit in the living room and chat instead of
let's
working
not podcast
on,
today.
Let's not podcast or content create or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's important for us too.
And
That's like coming back to the porch for me.
and Jared has full permission to ask anything. It's like,
Right.
hey, Bill, is your thought life pure?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing, and vice versa. So, and we've walked through several storms of life. You've lost your dad.
Hmm.
I've lost
Yeah.
my mom,
Your
my
mom.
dad, and my father-in-law.
Well, your dad's still alive, but
My dad is still alive, but my
you lost your
father-in-law, my
father-in-law and your
mother-in-law,
mother-in-law and your mother
and my mother. Yeah.
since
So
I've known you.
since you've known me,
Yeah.
we started building a in-law apartment in my backyard
The
to
cottage.
the cottage, as we call it, for the mother-in-law and father-in-law. But father-in-law passed in the midst of its building,
Hmm.
so just helping my mother-in-law through that process of grieving, and then still moving up here to
Hmm.
um,
Yeah. Then she
save some
passed.
money. And then she passed a year ago,
Hmm.
and now we're renting out um, the cottage to
Some
a young
friends.
lady,
Yeah.
Hannah, who works with InterVarsity, and then she's just got married and is
Yeah.
moving out and starting a
Yeah.
new stage of her life. So,
Yeah.
and then already got other people who are young couple, Christian couple, who are looking to save up and get for a house and start their life. And again, we're giving them a great deal to help them put some money in
Yeah. Cottage is
savings.
becoming kind of a little ministry
It
opportunity in a
is
way.
quite a blessing, and I can't wait. I hope my mother and father-in-law know that with the sale of their house and paying for the building of that cottage,
Mm.
how
But it's,
much
yeah.
more fruit that's bearing
Yeah.
because of what they just making that simple choice.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We have been through, like, my dad passed back in December of last year.
Yeah, and he walked through cancer
He
several
walked through
couple
cancer.
times, and
Yeah.
then it remission, and then
And came back and ended up being bone cancer. And
yep,
yeah, so I mean, we've been through kind of the ringer as far as that's concerned. But God's been gracious. He's
yep.
done a lot of good things. And
Marital questions and issues that we've helped each other navigate.
oh, for
And
sure. Yeah.
so it's been a journey. And
Yeah.
that's where our podcast is kind of came out of
Yeah.
these conversations that were very personal. And
Yeah.
we work, I
Yeah.
think, pretty well together on screen. And
No,
we've
for
even
sure.
team taught a sermon a few times that
Done that a couple times. Yeah, for
people have
sure.
just been amazed at the feedback and the process and how well we just
Yeah.
sound off each other through that process. And
Yeah, I think like looking to speak, like, not only just for us, but like looking to speak to our audience. I think two individuals who are like faithful listeners that I know personally. I just had one of them tell me, I just ran into him at the local coffee shop, and a local pastor, and he was saying that he just listened to the one that you interviewed me,
mm,
and was like, man, I appreciated your raw, just your raw answers and your vulnerability and all of that. And for me, it made me kind of rethink, man, I wonder how the rest of the listeners are. Because again, you and I sat and talked about, man, people could be listening to us, whether it's 5 people, 200 people, a million people. We have to think through, how vulnerable do we want to be on this podcast? What's going to be,
yep,
and we've kind of changed directions a couple times.
we have.
But I remember sitting here thinking, man, if we do this, like, how are we going to, what are we going to do? And we
Right.
decided on the value added for now. We're rethinking,
We're thinking of a brand name
of
change
branding
coming.
change and stuff.
So look forward to that
We went
maybe in
from
a few
leadership to
weeks.
focusing on men
Well,
specifically.
we discovered that those listening to the leader, when this was all about leadership, it was all Christians listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we thought, okay, maybe God is really just calling us to speak to the church, and the local churches nearby is where we were hearing a lot of
A lot of
good
good feedback.
comments
Yeah.
and feedback. So we shifted gears to speak to a Christian audience, and then we hired a coach, a
Mm-hmm.
YouTube coach, to
Kind of
help
helping
us
us out a
grow,
little
and
bit.
who is also a believer, by the way. Marco, shout out, thank
Yeah.
you so much for your
Yeah.
advice.
Absolutely.
And then he said, hey, well, let's just focus down in on men
Mm-hmm.
and establish yourself, and then after that grows, you can then expand on it again.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at now. We're focusing on men's ministry and helping good men
Become godly men.
become godly men. It's
Yeah.
not enough just to be good, because even good people go to hell.
If you're gonna speak from the hip, why don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of knowing Christ as your Lord and Savior and submitting to the
Yeah.
rule of Him over your life, and then growing, be intentionally, as we've
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at the moment. So if you're a young man struggling and have an issue, or you want a topic covered,
Yeah.
or have a question that you think others would benefit from, drop a
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah. Shoot a message or something.
Yep. You can find our email on our YouTube channel or our website, thevalueaddedpodcast.com, all of that good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know if you got something for us. But you said you had a couple questions. Do you have any others?
Yeah, I think, when you think of, this is just because we used to ask this of each other somewhat on the regular,
Mm-hmm.
what's your personal goal in the next year or two? Like, what are you thinking for yourself and for
My
you?
goal or my dream?
Well, I don't know, do both.
Yeah.
Go with goal first and then give us your dream. I don't know. What can hurt my
um,
feelings?
my goal is a little more realistic, nuts and bolts, and my dream is a little more hopeful to what the Lord will do.
Yeah, sure.
My goal, the nuts and bolts of it, is making sure my wife and I'm responsible for taking care of my family, and my wife is number one
Mm-hmm.
member of that family. And
For sure, yeah.
I'm not a young spring chicken no more, if you tell by the gray white beard. So we're getting closer to retirement to make sure
Mm-hmm.
we're doing all that we can, stewarding ourselves so we're prepared for retirement. God's added blessing to us along the way to shore that up, and I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
He'll do that again. But that doesn't negate my responsibility to make sure I'm
Yeah,
making the best decisions possible.
sure.
So to be able to, and I know God's faithful,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
know He's deep pockets, and He's going to take care of us. But I want to do my part of that
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. So that's just navigating that well is my goal. You know,
Mm-hmm.
dream wise, honestly, I would love just to continue ministering to people through the podcast. If that
Mm-hmm.
were to be able to become a vocation where I can leave the corporate world and just focusing on ministering, whether to men or just
Mm.
the Christian church in general,
Yeah,
that would be amazing. Whether here at the podcast or another role that God may have for me,
sure.
that would be brilliant. So, what
Yeah,
about
I get it.
you?
I think my goal, similar to yours, I want to continue to grow the strength of my marriage and my relationship with my girls.
Hmm.
Through podcasts and before that through just life, I want to I want to be their first phone call. If something goes wrong, if something they want to
Yeah.
celebrate, whatever that might be, my goal is to be their first phone call. And so, and I feel like I've got a great relationship with my wife, I've got a great relationship with my girls, but I want to continue to grow that,
Hmm.
first and foremost. I don't care about much else other than that. If that was the only thing I had to focus on, I'd be just as happy. And I think, dream wise, I mean, I would love to see, I mean, we have like hopes and dreams for the church. I'd love to see the Life Center become something that's, a
Oh, that'd be
reality.
brilliant. Yeah.
Right now we're doing some work on the existing chapel and trying to get that up to snuff. But we want to kind of snowball that into a tear down of the old section and a rebuild of that older part of the building. And, we want to put a gymnasium in, and we want to put some big classrooms in,
That would be
and some
exciting.
offices. And
Yeah.
yeah, we really just want to go for broke. And, is it realistic? I don't know, but we that's my dream, for this area, for the church to have that. Um, so that's just one of my dreams. And if I'm being real honest, real raw, I would like to be, retired next year, but that's never going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in my early 40s, so I got a while to go, but
Yeah, if I could retire and just voluntarily minister to,
100%,
that
yeah,
would be brilliant.
yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't have to worry about the paycheck kind of
yeah,
thing.
no,
But
yeah,
we don't. When things come too easy, we don't grow.
exactly, yeah.
So we don't have a reliance. We lose our reliance on God
Hmm.
if it comes too easy.
Money has
So
made many a man weak. I'll tell you that.
it has. It has. And shifted their value system from the Lord to the
Yeah,
world. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, my dad used to say, and this I think will kind of work towards maybe some closing comments of this episode, but think about our lives in leadership, and specifically in ministry, our roles in ministry, with men and for the podcast. And Dad used to say that, ministry happens when God's riches reach human needs through the kindness of His servants, and that for me has been kind of ringing in the back of my ear. You know, what are the needs of people in our spheres, and how can I be the conduit through which God's riches reach those needs? And so whether that's this life center, or whether that's just a front porch with one of my staffers or one of my
Yep.
students, whether that's physical giving, I've become the conduit through which physical giving happens, and somebody's able to pay their bills because of the riches of God's, kingdom reaching their human needs. So that's one of the things I'm working through, as far as the podcast, as far as the ministry, my personal life, my relationship with my wife and my girls. But any thoughts on that?
Nothing specific comes to mind. I'm kind of, long story short, Jared's dad was associate pastor of Jaffrey Bible Church. He
Years
then got
ago,
years ago got called to pastor Good News Bible Church in Wilton, where Jared then went on to be the associate pastor of, and then,
yeah.
as we described earlier, came back to Jaffrey as associate pastor. But his dad has passed, and now I'm the interim teaching pastor over at Good News.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of back and forth in shared ministry. I wish more churches would be willing to partner on that.
Yeah.
But all that to say is I'm kind of honestly jealous that I can't be back at Jaffrey when all these things on the horizon of growth and building, and I'm excited to see what God's going to do there. It's just going to be brilliant and amazing.
Yeah.
So that's my one follow-up comment to that.
Yeah.
So
that's good. No, this has been fun.
It is.
I think we'll have to do a couple episodes from the front porch.
Yeah, maybe if weather permits, we'll do the summer from the front porch.
Yeah, we'll do summer sessions from the porch or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate all the listeners and viewers. And thanks for being part of our journey, our little humble beginnings of this podcast. We're 80 episodes in or so, and just going to continue to drop content and hoping to help good men become godly men. So we'll be praying for you, and we'll see you in the next one.